All right, we're back. Another episode of The Climb, and we got Coach Kiselica on today.
What's going
Welcome back,
on?
Christian.
How we doing?
Oh, doing great, doing great. Why don't we plug that beautiful Instagram you made the last time you were on here? You didn't have it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What is it? Coach KVB. Slow start with it, but we're gonna start picking up, and you and I will collab on this. So this will project me into some fame, hopefully.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're all gonna ride the coattails of this here, or vice versa.
Yeah, true. You can
So,
ride mine if you
actually,
want.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, introducing Christian as Coach Kiselica has a point. We've talked a lot about mental health here, but the, I guess, dark horse of my recovery, and Christian, you can back me up here, um, has been my background in being an athlete
Yeah.
and the different intangibles you get while going through the process of being an athlete, even a high school athlete. But, as a collegiate athlete, one thing that was really relevant to all of us bombers was this commitment to excellence and
Mhm.
commitment itself. So I wanted to bring Christian on and talk about that because, he knows, more than most people in regards to athletes and these intangible aspects that they're bringing along with them. But we both agreed that commitment was huge, not only
Yeah.
on the court or on the field, but in all personal lives here.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think it's for you and I as athletes, like growing up. I think we commitment was something that was really kind of ingrained into us, and I think that's one of the real benefits of being an athlete is learning how to commit to things and learning how to
Mhm.
do things when you don't want to. And I think that's why employers love hiring athletes because they know that they work well in teams. They're committed.
Mhm.
Um, they're going to wake up on the bad days and still put in a hard day. And so yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, and you said it there. It seems like we've had this structure as young people, and you don't have a choice when you're an athlete for the commitment. And it's almost like a couple podcasts ago when I was talking about habit stacking and forced structure.
Hmm.
People don't have that in their lives, and athletes do have the upper hand, especially
Yeah.
when they're current athletes. But there's certain aspects of commitment that make people good, and it also makes them great. So we'll
Yeah.
cover a lot of that.
Well, and I think the funny thing about that point is I'm this way, and I know a lot of athletes are this way, but we're actually more disciplined, get more things done while we're in season because our schedule is like so structured. And I think that's why coaching is the right career for me because it has really forced me to continue to have that structure in my life. And so, yeah, let's dive into it.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Just in regards to benefiting from commitment. Um, so I was so lucky to go to Ithaca College because not only did I go to a great program, in their football program with a lot of
Hmm.
mantras. One of them was commitment to excellence. But we had a sports psychology, major that I took, or a minor, I guess, and got more information that was really relevant and information that was actually being presented by a sports psychologist. So, shout out to Greg Shelley, absolute fantastic professor, role model, mentor of mine in college. And he worked not only with Ithaca College sports and had a leadership academy, but all throughout different universities and colleges in the United States. His associate, Jeff Jensen, and here's where the ties come in with Lafayette College. Jeff Jensen is notoriously known for his commitment continuum.
Hmm.
At one point, and I'm sure I can freehand it, but I do have it below. At one point, I did know this commitment continuum by heart, but essentially, when you walk through Lafayette's different athletic department levels, you're going to see this, and you see this all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment continuum that Jeff Jensen made, and it's essentially just an arrow where you have 3 in red and 3 in green. And so from left to right, it goes through the different levels of commitment of each athlete. And, from left to right, you have someone that's resistant, who's not bought in. Someone then is reluctant, who, is maybe will wait and see. And then someone that's just existent, someone that's just going through the motions. So,
Hmm.
clearly those three, have a negative slant to it. And, what we always talked about was going through this, commitment continuum like a ladder. If you were just existent, what can you do to be the next step? And,
Hmm.
those next three steps, which are more positive and in the green in the graph here, you have your compliant, the people that are doing what they're told. We always said that these were great teammates. These are
Hmm.
people that are willing to do what you need them to do and have a good spirit about it. And then you have the committed people, the people that are going the extra mile. And then the final step would be compelled, people that are doing everything that we just mentioned, but doing it with a great spirit, trying to be elite and having this attitude of, really being the best and enjoying every second of it.
Hmm.
So, Christian, I know you're no stranger to this,
Hmm.
but is this, in your eyes, with your experience in coaching, how relevant is this throughout the athletes that you see?
Yeah, super. I mean, I went over this with our leadership council, and asked them to kind of put themselves in a category and
Mm-hmm.
really reflect on where they are. And it's also something that I asked them to just think about. Um, if you have a teammate that is maybe on the lower end of the spectrum, what are the things that you can do to help get them a little further up? Um, I think the athletes that are on the compelled side are the ones that are always asking for extra reps, are asking what can they do to move from a bench position to a starting position. They're the ones that are constantly looking out for their teammates, cheering their teammates on. I think there's people that can be selfishly driven, but then there's others that do everything for their team. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
those are the compelled ones that no matter what they want what's best for the team. And I'm really lucky that I have a lot of athletes on the good side of this spectrum. We have a team that's really bought in, um, into what we want to do. They're really bought into wanting to win a championship, and I think at the end of the day, what I love most about them is how they treat people. And I think when you have a culture where you have hardworking people, but
Mm-hmm.
you also have a culture where people are really caring, and want to improve everyone around them. It's just a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely, I know, but it definitely sounds like it starts from the top. And when you're keeping a level of accountability, whether it's within sports or outside of sports, with yourself, having this accountability, it really puts, a certain level to your perception of yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're only lying to yourself. And while the commitment continuum can be internalized, it does have an effect on a whole team if everyone is looking at it. So, it starts from you sharing it and saying, hey, where are you guys? And sharing it with your leaders. Where do you think the team is? All
Hmm.
right, what do we have to do to go to that next level?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think going back to your point about like the self-reflection part, like I think everyone thinks that self-esteem is like this internal thing, but very often self-esteem comes from how others perceive us, how we affect others around us. And so um, I think that, yeah, you want to look at yourself and identify where you are on the spectrum, but um, also as a whole, it's really important to say, are we
Mm-hmm.
as a whole on this side of the spectrum going in the right direction? So um, I think it's something I'm going to use this year and really try to identify where people are and how we can move them up. And I think it makes things really simple. I can say, hey, you're here and I need you to be here.
Hmm.
and it keeps things really honest too.
Yeah, yeah, it's easy to grasp. So, with your guys' team, it's a little bit intimate right now, but you've worked with a lot of teams, and
Mm,
having been on a football team with over 100 kids,
yeah.
I know that there are some people in the red. There are resistance. There are people that are reluctant. So, in your experience, identifying different people like that, I mean, what do you see as a player, or maybe as a like maybe they have stuff going on outside, or how does it affect the people around them? What
Hmm.
are some ways that you think are best to approach that person because they're out there?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, I really don't feel like I have anyone on my team right now that's there. But obviously I have in the past. And I think what I always try to do is come at it with an empathetic perspective
Mm-hmm.
and try to figure out, is there something happening at home? Is it a significant other issue? Is school going okay? Are they homesick? Like, there's so many different factors um, that could go into why somebody's feeling that way. Were they the star in their hometown and now they're playing Division 1 and everybody's at the same level? That
Mm-hmm.
can be a tough thing for people to transition to from high school to college. Um, and so I think having those really honest conversations is important, and getting to know your athletes is like probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
Can I identify when somebody looks off? Is that
Mm-hmm.
athlete going to feel comfortable to come and talk to me or one of my assistant coaches when they feel off, um, or when something's going on? And so I think the relationship side of coaching is probably what I love most, and the culture side. And so, um, I tell recruits all the time, like we invest a lot into our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the awesome thing is being able to see the buy-in from our team
Mm-hmm.
and how they're taking it and making it their own, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel as if people need to see that from you
Hmm.
before maybe they're fully bought in. They may
Yeah.
not be on this spectrum. They just maybe just trying to see where you all see fit before they kind of pick that. So
Yep.
you're in your first full year now, more or less second year. So let's take it back, I guess, last year. How did you show to a bunch of new faces that you were committed to them even if they didn't know you? What was the actions that you were putting together? And I guess, was there a turning point where you kind of won them over to realize that, hey, this guy's working for us, we can work for him?
Hmm. I think it really started with our first team meeting. I outlined my plan and uh, really just truthfully told them I believed in them and I really thought they
Mm-hmm.
could win. Um, I think moving moving into the postseason after last fall, I think I reflected a lot on how the season went. And this spring, we invested a lot more into our team culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say we were very much a coach led team for my first 6 to 8 months at Lafayette. But now we're really transitioning into having a lot more player leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more positive voices you can have in the gym, in the locker room, in the weight room, the better it's going to be. And so I'm really grateful for my athletes that are on our leadership council that have took things off my plate,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also stepping up and making sure that our culture is moving in the right direction. Um, and in addition to that, I think having buy-in from your assistant coaches and them really believing in you is super important too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, at the end of the day, like I remember we had a tough game that we lost this past fall, and I went into the locker room after, and I told our team, like, win or lose, like I'll go to battle with you guys any day. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love this team, and I think they see the passion that I have for it, and I hope that is, trickles down in some way, whether it's vocally or hopefully me just leading by example.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. But you can just tell in the way you're talking about it, there was a process that you wanted to lay down and a foundation, and getting people to buy in, your players to buy in may have taken a little bit just starting out, but once they
Yeah,
were in, um, you kind of get into this standard of how you want Lafayette volleyball to be run. When you're saying that, it reminds me a lot. We're talking about this continuum, which is a spectrum that people can move back and forth on. But at Ithaca for football, the standard was commitment was excellence.
hmm
And the commitment to excellence, and there was nothing other than that. And
yeah,
if you weren't meeting that, then it's very binary. And we had a culture like that. And if we had enough people that if you weren't of that mindset, then you were just going to get, left behind. And we had no measure for anything other than that. So I think that really stuck with me because um, even outside of sports, it's been super helpful for me to realize that, hey, in order to achieve something great or to go over an obstacle,
hmm
you really have to put in the work, and that's not just one practice.
yeah,
You know, that's just not one off season. It's
hmm
not just one preseason. It's everything. It's everything that you do, and it's the commitment to it. Um, which makes me want to hear more or less how you got there, because it seems second nature to you now, but there had to be a time where you realized that, like, okay, this is the way to do things. This is the level of commitment I want to put into my career.
yeah.
And it clearly shows that reflects to your coaching now, but there had to be a point where the light kind of clicked.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like one exact point. I think like I made a decision that I was going to become a Division 1 head coach when I was like what 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like that decision, although there's been hard times where I'm like, is this what I want? At the end of the day, it is. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
no other job I'd rather be doing. And I think making that decision earlier in my life and sticking with it
Yep.
has been the best decision of my life. How I was able to stick with that, though, I think it's it's having a deep belief in yourself and having people surround you that really believe in you and encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the way I run my program is from one of two things. It's I've learned something a really good way, or I've seen something done a really bad way, and I don't want to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes this side of it is sometimes more valuable. Um, and and I really made a decision that I want to feel like this team is a family. I want to feel like no matter what, they know that I love them. Um, and and I hope that doing those things makes them feel like they can be the best they can be,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's individually or as a team. And I think sometimes it can get tough where like maybe someone's not starting and they really believe they should, or they don't feel like they're getting a shot. And I think those are the times where you gotta like reflect and make sure you're making the right decisions as a coach. Um, but but I think one thing that I'm really trying to do moving into this coming season is making sure I'm confident in my decisions, and not really caring about what other people think, and just really, really committing to the values that I have and committing to the process that we have as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, you had a lot of great nuggets in there, and I have to go back to the beginning of it, of your goal of being a D1 coach. I have a take, and I believe goals are super important. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
they're not as important as intention,
Mm-hmm.
because everything you said after that goal was intention based.
Yep.
That every action, that every focus, that everything was done with intention.
Right.
To the point where you are now, where even your preparation for the team and where we stand and the standard we hold for each other has an intention to it. Yeah, we want to win a championship. That is the goal. But in order to do that, we have to have an intention of every single detail. And it's pretty awesome to hear you say that, because I truly believe that intention and doing things with a purpose really helps with the results that you're looking to see. It's one thing to just write down your goals. It is really important. Everyone write down your goals. But if you're not doing small actions to lead up to that goal with intention of
Mm-hmm.
improving on it and eventually achieving on it, in my experience, you're not going to get there. You're just writing down a goal and never moving forward towards it.
Yep.
So I heard that a lot in what you said.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree. I think a lot of that comes from finding good mentors, and being guided in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it also is just a lot of reflection too, of like, this is what I've seen, this is what this is what I need to do to improve myself and my program, and this is how we move forward.
Yeah.
And I think whether you have a very set timeline of how often you reflect, or if you're like me, who is just kind of an overthinker and you're constantly doing it, I think you need time and space for that, and that's the only way you're gonna improve and move towards your goals. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I like to coin it, and it may not seem that way for other people, but I like to coin that as like acceptance. Like, you need to
Mm-hmm.
accept where you are, and that's,
Yeah.
relating it back to the commitment continuum. It's the beauty of it is, like, you can move up if you have you have the opportunity to. You also have the opportunity to move back, but that's a lot of places in life. If you just reflect, like you're talking about, and accept the position that you're in, not accept to stay there, but
Right.
accept that this is your current reality,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be changed, it can be improved upon. And it also, if you're reluctant or resistant, or just being there, it could get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So really, smart advice for young athletes to really be true to themselves, because it's a journey that maybe all coaches had to take themselves to get where they are. It's maybe you never were ever going to be as close to a playing level to some of the kids that you're playing. Most coaches aren't, but you were once in the cleats or the shoes, or the shorts and jerseys. You were once an athlete and knew what it took to at least put together a committed effort.
Yeah, and I think another thing that people really need to remember is, once you get where you want to be, the work begins. Like, I think a lot of people think, oh, I made a Division I program, I got my dream job, I got into this college, like whatever that is. Like, all right, well, what are you going to do to stay there? What are you going to do to move on to the next place? What are you going to do to create a legacy? And I think, like, that has been a lot of fun for me, knowing I'm exactly where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is my dream job. But like, what's the next goal now? Well, now it's, how do I create a 30-40 year legacy here?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where my mind gets really excited, because my mind is very future oriented. So, but now I'm thinking about all the fun things I can do with this program, and the legacy that I can leave, hopefully a very long time down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a compelled attitude right there. It's just, how can I be elite? How can I go to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think just in general, in life, we find it very easy to be complacent.
Yeah.
Um, And this has been mentioned a few times, maybe even with us, that there's a huge difference between contentment and complacency.
Yeah.
And, complacency, especially in sports, is a slippery slope because there's someone out there that's working as hard as you are, if not harder.
Hmm.
Um, whether you're the coach, whether you're the first person off the bench, or you're the last person on the bench. There's always someone out there working, and that's also life too. A lot of people think you can be handed things in life, and that's just not the case.
Nope.
You're sometimes going to be dealt a crappy hand, and whether that's professionally or personally, and you just kind of have to deal with the cards you're dealt with a fantastic attitude because you might be in the dream situation you envisioned for yourself, but we all are where we're supposed to be. This is
Hmm.
where we're supposed to be right now, and we have
Yeah.
an opportunity to impact the future,
Hmm.
um, which is cool because I know you're bringing in athletes that feel the same way.
Hmm.
So to talk about 30 years in the future is not a stretch for you whatsoever. For others, maybe they don't have the concept of it, but I do believe what you're planning and what you're building is something to be successful, and it's a lot of what we've already talked about because the commitment you have to it and the intention that you're putting in every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think to go back to one of your points, uh, you said, like, what are other people doing that I might not be? I
Mm-hmm.
think our strength coach reminds our team of this all the time, and I try to sometimes. It's like, all right, we might be working hard today, but guess what? So is every other team in the conference. What
Yeah.
are we going to do to separate ourselves from them? Um, and I think that is so relevant in so many aspects of life. Like, you as a salesperson, like, what happens if another salesperson makes the one call you didn't feel like making that day, and
Mm-hmm.
they get the commission and you don't, um yeah, I just think that as Americans, we're competitive, but I think that kind of uh makes it all more important to to outwork everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. Competitiveness is really important, but it also too important, like you said, when you reach the peak, to realize that hey, anything can come after you. For
Yeah.
instance, I mean, to reference the climb, I have conquered before my last hospitalization. I've overcome two major setbacks
Yeah.
that you could write a book on each one.
Hmm.
And at each time, it was like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Bang, back to the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
Climb it again. Boom, back to the top of the mountain yet again. And it's almost like you need to be truly honest of what could come in the future and who's on your heels,
Hmm.
if you really want to be competitive and let that drive you. And even if competitiveness isn't it, then maybe it's peace and tranquility that you always have to realize that hey, there's always going to be darkness around the horizon. I need to keep this peace and tranquility and this calmness about my entire life because bad days will come, and you just
Hmm.
got to be ready for the storm, and you just got to become a mental health mountaineer. That's all.
Yeah, and I think just having resiliency on top of that is huge. Maybe you didn't have the best upbringing. Maybe you do have mental illness. Um, you know, like, you being able to handle the bumps in the road is really, really important. Um, we um, we just read the energy bus with our leadership council, and that was a theme of that was
Mm-hmm.
how are we going to handle the bumps in the road this season. um, and I think it's a really, really good reminder to, whenever something bad happens, just tell yourself, like, I've been through hard shit before, and I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm going to get through this. Um, and and again, going back to what I said earlier, but having that community around you that you can lean on is important too, and not feeling like you have to do it all yourself. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if you can be resilient, you're going to get 1% better every day.
Yeah, that's so well put. A lot of things are out of our control, but there's so much within our control.
Yep.
And people need to realize that
Yep.
they need to worry about what they can control and forget the stuff that they can't, because stuff's going to happen regardless. Question for you:
Hmm.
when you're recruiting, and you've recruited all across the board,
Yeah.
even in your past jobs, you've recruited all types of athletes. What's the one intangible trait that you see that, well, we call them in sales bunny ears. Our ears go up when we hear something good that could
Hmm.
help our sales. So what is one trait that you see or hear from an athlete, they're like, oh wow, this person's special?
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think it's hard to narrow down to one, but I think so.
Well, rattle
It's
off a
easy.
couple then.
Yeah, it's easy to identify the good athletes. A big thing for me, like watching athletes at nationals where I was a few weeks ago, was how do they interact with their teammates and what do they look like on the bad plays.
Mm.
Um, I think a third thing is how do they react if they get subbed out. Um, I think all of those things, like I sat on a few kids' courts for a while, like waiting for them to get subbed out, waiting for their team to go down a few points, waiting for them to get blocked and like see, are they going to take that swing again or are they now playing timid? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say those things are probably the most important to me, on top of like just generally how do they treat people. A lot of coaches will say like how they treat their parents is really important. Are you like screaming at your parent to go grab you water, or like are you kindly asking? I think that's a really big thing too.
Mm. That's really interesting. I remember there always being a saying like, always pretend like someone's watching.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's interesting in those tournaments to not feel like that, but yeah, if I feel like you want to know what your athlete is going to be doing when no one's watching, or in
yep,
those instances, right? Like, I'm getting subbed out. Okay, well, they're not playing on the court. What does it matter? Oh, it matters a whole lot,
uh
quite
huh,
a bit actually.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, that reminds me. I don't remember what the movie was called, but it was a Martin Lawrence movie, and he was a high school basketball coach, and he he's coaching this team, and he decides to bring pizza to practice every day for like the cheerleaders or some to have some girls in the gym. That way, the guys will on his team will work harder, knowing that the girls were in the gym. I don't know
hmm.
if you've seen this.
No, but
Um,
that's great.
yeah, but like things like that I'm like, like is I ask club coaches like, is that kid working as hard as they are when a college coach is in the gym? Or are they just doing it to impress somebody? I want athletes that are going to put in the work every single day. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, that just reminded me of that. That's funny.
That's such a funny point. I mean, probably pretty relevant too.
Yeah.
I'm sure even if that was real, people would probably give a little bit more effort there. All right, well, let me ask you this: like, just like you did to your athletes, it seems like you're pretty compelled. But going into this season coming up,
Hmm.
what's your plan of commitment to your team and to yourself? And how about your, personal life too?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up because I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, I feel like every fall it's like, all right, all hands on deck. Like all the personal stuff goes goes out the window.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking a lot about how to. It's not realistic. But what are the things that I can do? Can I still work out every day? Can I still eat healthy meals?
Mm-hmm.
Can I still carve out time once a week, you know, to have you know, date night with my wife or something small like that. Those are the things that I think are personally going to be really important to me this fall. Um, but for the team, I think I've had a lot more time to prepare this fall, so I'm I'm feeling really really optimistic and calmly excited, I guess, going into this season. I think we're playing probably the toughest non-conference schedule that our team has ever faced. Um,
Hmm.
but we want to go play the best people in the country. You know, we want to go play those best teams in the country, and that's only
Hmm.
going to prepare us for conference. And so we're going to be. I think that the major things I'm thinking about is how do for the team, how do we continue to put our culture first throughout the season when we have traveling and classes are tough and we're playing multiple matches a week and we're seeing each other all the time. Um, and how do we continue to win? I think at the end of the day, those are the two major things for me, on top of the personal things too.
That's awesome. It's cool, and I want everyone to like play this back to the part where Christian starts talking about his planned commitment. He started with himself because he realized without Christian being healthy
Mm-hmm.
and living and operating how Christian needs to operate, nothing else matters. And I can relate to that, my friend, so much that that is a huge part of everyone's life is their commitment to their own health and wellness and
Yeah.
personal development. It's the basic needs. It's like a fish needs water.
Yep.
None of anything you said after that matters if you don't take care of the person that you see in the mirror first. So
Yep.
kudos to you. I'll be front row watching, but excited to see this intention and the plan and commitment all come and pay off in the future for your pal.
Me too, dude. I'm really pumped for the season. And always love being here. It's always fun talking to you. And can't wait to get on another.
Yeah, we'll have to do another episode around coaching, sports psychology,
Yeah.
and we'll come a little bit locked and loaded with some new topics. But really insightful. And Christian, one more time, plug your Instagram for everyone.
Yeah. It's just Coach KVB. Um, and or you could follow our team, Lafayette underscore VB. Also plug, we're playing Lehigh at home, our rivals, October 27th. It's a Sunday. Trying to get like over 2,000 people at the game. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. If this was semi-pro, this would be the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Man, if I could dream.
It is one day. One day it
Yeah.
will be. Awesome. All right, brother. Appreciate you coming on and all the insights. Super helpful.